All right, all right, all right. Welcome to the We Do It for the Culture Radio Show. How y'all doing out there
Hello,
today?
everybody.
All right, listen, we got us a great show lined up for you guys today. We're gonna be talking about a topic, as we all say when we talk about We Do It for the Culture Radio. We talk about topics that directly or indirectly affect the black community. But this is one of those topics that directly affects the black community. And we're going to be talking about sickle cell today. Some call it sickle cell dementia, some call it sickle cell anemia, sickle cell disease, whatever you want to call it, it's sickle cell. And we're going to be discussing that today. So, what we want you to do is tell someone, tap them on the shoulder, call someone, text someone, let them know we got a great show lined up for you guys today. And we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to introduce our lovely guests and we're going to dive right into the show. So go grab your popcorn, get your pencil and paper ready because you guys got to take down some information. We're going to be talking about stuff that could be useful and helpful to you, especially if you know someone that has sickle cell.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So this is We Do It for the Culture Radio. I am your host, Calvin.
And this is Mahogany Rose, and this is
We Do It for the Culture Radio. That's right. So go get your popcorn, go get ready. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back in, we're going to introduce our guests, and we're going to dive right in. We Do It for the Culture Radio. We'll be right back.
Okay, I'm just going to read this right here.
Welcome that back to We Do It for the Culture Radio, where our stories matter. Like I said, we got a great show, a very informative show lined up for you guys today. And today we're going to be talking about sickle cell anemia. And I'm going to hand it over to Miss Mahogany Rose so she can give y'all a synopsis, a brief synopsis of what sickle cell disease is.
All right. So, sickle cell disease is a group of inherited red blood cell disorders. Red blood cells contain hemoglobin, which is a protein that carries oxygen. Healthy red blood cells are round and they move through small blood vessels to carry oxygen to all of the body. And some sickle cell diseases, the hemoglobin is abnormal, which causes the red blood cells to become hard and sticky and look like a C shaped form. The sickle cell dies early, which causes constant shortage of red blood cells. Also, when they travel through small blood vessels, they get stuck and clog the blood flow. This causes pain and serious complications, such as infections, acute chest syndrome, and stroke.
Gotcha,
Just a little
gotcha.
bit about sickle cell anemia.
All right. And with that being said, we're going to introduce our first guest for this evening, Miss Erica Hewley. Give us a little quick, brief description about Miss Hewley, Miss Mahogany Rose.
Okay. Erica is a mother of two, a wife, an entrepreneur, an investor, um, and she buys properties. Now, I want her to share her childhood experience with living with sickle cell anemia.
Gotcha.
Let's give a warm welcome to Erica Lazada.
All right, all right, all right, all right, all right. What's up, Miss?
Hopefully, I said your name right.
You
I
did.
thought it was Hewley. My fault. I'm over here sick.
So my maiden name is Huey. When I was the poster child, my name was Erica Huey. So a lot of people know me as Erica Huey, but my married name is Lazada. So it's
Gotcha.
both.
Okay,
Well,
cool.
we welcome
cool.
you to this show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, Miss Lazada. Now based on what Miss Mahogany Rose is saying, is basically this thing right here is it's basically passed down genetically, right?
Yes.
Okay, and but it's not contagious and it can't be infectious. You can't give it to somebody else. I mean, unless you hold
Right.
a brain or something like that.
It's inherited. So, and both of your parents have to have the trait in order for you to have the disease. So my parents, my mom and my dad both have sickle cell trait, which in turn I end up having the disease.
I thought it was one parent had to have it. Both have to have it.
Yep.
Wow, wow. See, you just taught me something new. I didn't know that. I thought maybe just one parent had to have it. So give us a little bit of a little brief description of what it was like growing up with sickle cell and how you first knew you had it and what
Yeah.
that was like
When
finding
were
out.
you diagnosed?
So I was diagnosed at birth. I was born in 81, and right around 81 is when they started testing all babies for sickle cell disease. When before that, they wouldn't really find out until after you're like crying and in pain, and then kids would be 3 and 4 years old before they realized that they had sickle cell. So right when I was born, they started testing all babies for sickle cell disease. So they knew right when I was born that I had the disease.
Wow.
Wow.
So it was, but like, so your parents they found out that you had it from the doctor.
Yep, right at the hospital. Yep. Which, of course, they're blew their minds. They were like, "Oh my God, what is going to happen?" It's a lot for, especially back then. It's a lot for a parent to take on when they're like, "Oh my God, what is it? What's going to happen?" And of course, the doctors don't know too much back then. So when they're telling my parents, they're like, "What is going to happen?" And they're basically scared to death.
Did your
Right,
parents know that they were carriers?
No, they didn't even. They had no idea what sickle cell trait was back then. They were like, "What?" And it kind of affects the parents a little bit differently because they're like, "Oh my gosh, I did this to my child," but it's not really their fault because they didn't even know what sickle cell trait was.
Right.
Wow. So what was like when what were some of the things the doctor told them to prepare for you having this disorder? Like what did they were there certain things they had to do? Like what were some of the treatments that they had to that they had to go through, or it's something you just gotta just wing it, basically.
So when back then, when I was a kid, they had me taking penicillin every day, um, because me getting any type of infection would cause a crisis. So their idea was of treatment was preventative treatment. So they would give me, I would take penicillin every single day, the liquid pink stuff every single day to keep me from getting any type of infections, colds, viruses, whatever they thought I might have gotten from school. I was
Right.
taking it. They also, don't go from extreme hot to cold. So, they wouldn't want me to go to, New York in the dead of winter because the extreme cold would bring a crisis on.
Right.
Don't overexert myself. So, oh, I can go outside and play, but I better have a bottle of water with me because I need to rehydrate. There was a lot of things that kind of like they were really cautious about when me growing up. I couldn't, play outside all day. I couldn't um it was a lot of things. They wanted me to eat healthier. There it was just a lot of things that they were just worried about growing up. I mean, one good thing I didn't get as many spankings because they were scared that they were scared it was gonna put me in a crisis. So I could like, literally count on one hand how many times I got a
I'm
spanking.
sure you took full advantage of that.
Right.
You milked that to the bone.
I know, right?
Indeed.
Did you go through many crises as a child?
I did. At one point, I was so sick. My parents were about to move to Durham because, so we have here in Fayetteville, we do have Cape Fear Hospital, but they're not as well versed in sickle cell disease as Duke is. So they don't have a sickle cell clinic here. So I would have to go to Duke. So I was getting sick so much when I was younger that my parents were looking into buying a house or moving to Durham because they were like, this hour and a half drive every couple of weeks is kicking our tail. And of course, I'm a child, so they don't want to just leave me in a hospital by myself. So they're constantly coming back and forth, and it was taking a toll on them. So I definitely was I was sick a lot. I was sick a whole lot, especially, once wintertime came, you could already prepare that once it gets cold, I'm gonna be sick.
So that brings me to my next question, because you said when you were younger they were giving you stuff like penicillin and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
when they give you something like that regularly, doesn't that make your body immune to it, where it doesn't protect you anymore like it's supposed to?
I It does now that we're in 2022. They know that, but back in
Right.
1987, that's not what they were thinking. They were like, "Oh, okay," but I only took it from about birth up until probably like I was 9 or 10. But it probably wasn't working anymore. For sure, they did change a little bit. It wasn't always penicillin. They changed to a different antibiotic after a while, but their that was their that was their treatment. Like I said, things get better as time goes on, thank goodness, but that's what they do.
So do you have I didn't know that it like affected your like like you being immune. Like you said, you get like in the winter you get cold easily and stuff like that,
Yeah.
whatever. So you have like your immune system is kind of low. Is that the case because of it?
So my so back then that's what they figured is like it's not that my immune system is compromised, it's more that if I get sick, it's going to be so when I get a cold or if I get the flu, it's not just the cold or the flu. If I get the flu, I'm you might as well guarantee you can bet that I'm going to be in a hospital. Because the flu is just not me just having a flu, it usually puts me into a crisis. So it's not that my immune system isn't as strong, it's that if I catch anything, it makes it that times worse. Hence COVID or um pneumonia or the flu. Like all those things weren't just regular, oh, she has the flu. It was the flu, I'm in the hospital. It was COVID, I'm in ICU. It was pneumonia, I'm in the, it's just
Dangerous for you.
yes, it's very dangerous. So that's one of the things that, even now as an adult, I have to make sure that I am safe because I can't just go out without mask. I can't just go and be like, oh yeah, no, I can't get sick. Me getting sick is probably about 2 weeks out my life because I'm going to be in the hospital.
Right.
Um,
So, as a child, you were named National Sickle Cell Poster Child. And that
Yes.
led, yes, go ahead, explain to us.
Every year they have a, I guess it was a kind of a contest, um, and they took pictures and submitted them, and I end up being the national poster child. So I would go to different places. I got to pitch the first ball for the Mariners game. I met the governor. I was supposed to meet the president, but something happened, not sure. But there's different things. And every time they had some type of seminar, I would be there. But basically my face was all over the posters, basically the brochures that tell you, about sickle cell. Every time in 1986 and 1987, my face was on those pictures.
I remember. I remember.
It, it says that sickle cell affects about 100,000 people in the United States alone, and people of African descent make up 90% of that population with sickle cell in the United States. And it's
Mhm.
not saying that doesn't affect other people like Hispanics, South Asians, South European, and Middle Eastern ancestry, but 90% of it is African American. So that leads me to think, okay, we know that it affects mostly us,
Mhm.
but do we know why? Have they figured out why it affects mostly us?
Well, my understanding is that it started over in Africa.
Hmm.
Basically because it was one of those diseases that our body kind of formed to protect itself from malaria. So the ideal situation would be sickle cell trait, because you don't really get sick, but you don't get malaria either. But then if two people with sickle cell have a baby, or sickle cell trait have a baby, you have sickle cell anemia. So yes, no, I can't get malaria, but I have the other, complications. So and and I'm not an expert, even though I do have sickle cell. I'm not sure how I don't think anybody knows exactly how it formed, but that's what they were saying, is basically it was our bodies basically evolving to fight off malaria, and that was one of the things that keeps people in Africa from dying of malaria. But like I said, once you have two parents with the trait, you end up having the sickle cell disease.
So it's just passed down from one generation to the next, to the next, to the next.
Yeah.
Now malaria, that's like you get that from like drinking water or something like that, right? Isn't that how you
Um,
get malaria?
I believe, yeah, from that or mosquitoes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mosquitoes.
oh, I thought it was
Mosquitoes.
something that was in the drinking
Mhm.
water where you can get it like in it. You know what I mean?
No, you could, if the right mosquito bites you, it's on.
And it's like we created like a mutation in our bodies to
Yeah,
fight against malaria. And that's how Africans were able to fight against malaria, because we had the sickle cell trait.
yeah.
Oh, so that's how we was able to fight against it.
Yes.
Hmm.
Gotcha, gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha. Now they said it is even though it affects us because 90% of the African Americans can get it. They said that the cases are still kind of rare. It says it's fewer than 200,000 cases per year of sickle cell. Now, do you speak to other people? Do you go to speak to other people like younger kids and stuff like that and talk about your situation and how they can maintain it? Because I know me as a paraplegic, I'm a speaker, I'm a public speaker. So and I speak to younger kids and tell them my story and explain to them how they can avoid going down the same path that I did and ending up in a wheelchair like I did. So, you being a sixer, do you use your situation as a platform to educate other people about the sickle cell?
Yeah,
Like what you're doing today, basically.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of people that end up contacting me via Facebook, Instagram, and they're like, "Hey, my daughter or my son or my friend, have sickle cell," and I end up talking to them. I don't do a lot of, like, this is like my first, like, in front of a lot of people type deal, but I usually do a lot of one-on-one, just so that I can explain to them, like, look, this is what I'm doing, this is how I'm able to, and just show them that, like, you're able to, you know, be better than what they're telling you, because the doctors, They said I wouldn't make it past 30. They said I couldn't have kids. They said I could never work. And I have crushed all of those. I am 41. I have two kids. I have a successful business. Like all those things that they're saying I couldn't do, I did. Now I'm not saying don't listen to the doctors, but I'm saying don't count yourself out just because they're afraid and they're like, oh, this may happen. Be prepared doesn't mean that that's your sentence. It doesn't mean that that's what has to happen. You're able to push through and be whatever it is that you want to be. I One of the girls on my IG, she's one of my followers. She has sickle cell and she is a nurse. They were like, "Oh, you can't. There's no way you could be a nurse because all that standing on your feet for 12 hours." She's killing it. So it doesn't just because they say this or that, it doesn't mean that that's what it has to be. So I usually like to talk to people and let them know, hey, you don't have to just be home. You don't have to not have a job. You don't have to be what they say for you to be. You could do whatever it is that you want to is possible, like and then of course I let them know of what I do. How I For me, staying active keeps me from being sick. If
Mm.
I'm active, if I'm working out, if I'm eating healthy, I don't have as many crises as I will if I'm eating bad, sitting at home in front of the TV, not moving. So those are the things that I like to tell, especially kids, like keep being active, keep doing this. Drink your water. Don't let someone make you feel bad, because that's another thing. It's hard having sickle cell because a lot of people don't know about it, especially kids. And so when they hear it, all of a sudden it's like, oh my God. So I'm like, don't let that bother you to a point where you're getting into a funk, or to a point where you don't want to do anything, or you don't want to tell people. No, y'all don't have to be the first thing that you say out your mouth, but at the same time you do want your teachers and things like that to know, okay, if I'm out, this is why I'm out. I'm not out just playing hooky. I'm out because of XYZ. And I usually let the parents know, like, this is what you need to do. You need to go ahead and speak to the teacher and the board and the principal, and make sure that um this is on their plan. Like, a lot of people had no idea that they can have a whole plan for us, to let them use the bathroom whenever, have their water bottles in class. Like, all those things are things that we should be able to have because of our sickle cell. But they think, oh, I just have to suck it up and live with it. No, you don't. You should get a water break. Yeah, you should get bathroom breaks whenever they have to go to the bathroom. They should be able to have a water container with them at all times. Like, there's a lot of things that they should do to adapt to us.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Wow.
Well, we have another guest, Miss Tiffany Saxon. She is actually the reason
That's right.
for this topic
That's right.
today. She brought it to our attention and said, listen, this is something that you guys need to talk about on your show. And because of her, we are talking about it. Let's welcome Miss Tiffany Sykes to the show. What's going on, lady?
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
What's going on? How's everything today?
Pretty busy,
Pretty busy.
Cool,
but it's
cool,
Well,
cool.
over with.
okay. Well, we thank you for coming on our show.
Thank you for having me.
And I remember you telling me that your brother actually had sickle cell anemia and he passed away. Could you share a little bit about that experience?
Yes, he had. Um, my brother was sick for a very long time. It was to the point in his early age, we all thought that he was just, faking it. The pain, it was a silent pain. He would come from out of nowhere having these crises. Um, and they would last for hours, sometimes days. And I'm talking about in the 70s, 80s,
Now,
because it was that time that, today doctors wasn't taking it serious at that time.
And where were you living at the time?
We was here in the States. We was here in Berlin, New Jersey.
Okay.
Berlin, New Jersey. And he was just always getting sick. We always thought that he was playing around, and we pat him on the back and sent him on his way, so to speak. But as time went on, he was just a real sick kid, and nobody didn't understand why.
So when was he diagnosed?
He was diagnosed at an early age, maybe around 2 or 3 years old. He just, just this crying that my mother always say. He used to cry a lot until finally she took him to an African doctor, and they run these tests, and he had sickle cell anemia. And to see him suffer throughout the years of growing, it was unbearable at times.
Now, how
It
did you
was,
and your family like? How did you and family adjust to that? Like, like as far as you, us, were you older than him or younger?
no, he's the second oldest. He's
So he
he's the
was
second
he
oldest.
was older than you.
Yes, he
Okay,
was older than me.
okay. So did that keep him from being able to participate in some of the
Yes,
activities and stuff like
everything.
he can't play. He got sickle cell. Like, was it
He
like
couldn't
that?
play. The children thought, sickle cell. At that time, like I said, nobody wasn't really educated about it. The kids thought it was contagious. Like, he stay sick all the time. Maybe I would catch it. So he really didn't have no friends because of the pain and suffering that he was going through.
Mm,
And he couldn't hold down a job. He just couldn't keep, his little love life, couldn't put up with it because he was constantly in the hospital.
mm.
Constantly in the hospital. This disease is getting better. We have more doctors, we have more specialists, but at that time it was very few, and they didn't care because at that time, I mean, they think it's just a kid just trying to seek attention.
Now I know, like, with I always hear sickle cell anemia. Now, is the anemia part? I'm asking you too, Miss Erica. Is that also? Do you get tired quickly? Is that the case when it comes to the sickle cell? Does it make you fatigued a lot? Is that why they call it sickle cell anemia?
Yeah, yeah, because because our cell, so let me be sure of the days, but I believe your blood cells should last 120 days before they have to regenerate. Ours is about, I want to say, 67 days. So our body, our blood cells don't last as long. Let me look it up to be sure. But our blood cells don't last as long, so our body is constantly regenerating them. And then on top of that, because of the lack of oxygen, we are getting tired because they're not shaped like, when we go in a crisis, they're not going to be shaped like a circle. They're going to be a C because it doesn't have as much oxygen that's being carried. So we get tired a lot. um
Mhm.
it's not, we can't just go go go. We have to rest a lot. Sometimes I have to remind myself that, because half the time I forget. But your body be like, hey girl, sit down. But yeah, you get tired more.
Are you like officially like an official advocate for sickle cell?
I'm not official, no.
Okay.
I i i guess when you say official, uh what would that really mean? I'm not part of an organization. I'm
Okay,
basically,
gotcha.
I just go and I talk to everybody. If everybody knows that if they need to, talk to me, if they need have questions, if they want, help or resources, they come to me. But not to where I started an organization or anything like that. But I'm just, like I said, I'm just here for people.
Gotcha,
And
gotcha.
we thank you for your truth. You will inspire more and more people.
Yes, yes.
True.
And you know what? And I'm watching the medicine, new improved medication. I wish it was out when Stanley was around, my brother, because a lot of things have changed. I'll keep up on sickle cell because, you mentioned that they wasn't going to give you past 30, and which is true because I read a little article that all sickle cell patient at that time wouldn't live up until 30. And I pray that I never told Stanley this. I'm like, oh my God, this sickle cell stuff is real. I had to, read about it because we just couldn't understand him with all this pain and crisis. We thought he was just playing, playing around, but we never took it so serious that he was in that much excruciating pain. And
I
lo and
was
behold, he passed at that tender age of 30.
yeah,
He
that was
passed at 30.
I guess at that time maybe the treatment wasn't as effective as it is now, because it says that the median age now is 42 for males and 48 for females. Now, do y'all think that look more like a more accurate mortality rate for sickle cell
I
patients?
hope not.
I know that's right.
No,
I
I
believe
don't
with
think so.
the medicine and technology today,
Right, exactly.
and being able to better put things in our body that's going to help us. I feel that Erica will live a beautiful longevity life.
Thank you. I will say that between the newer medicines and the more education that we're getting
Mhm.
on it, we're able to keep, because I went from, at one time I was going to hospital every month. Every month
Mhm.
I was in the hospital, going to the hospital. I had, now I'm going a whole year with maybe going one hospital visit. Even some of my friends that are that have sickle cell, they're going 2 years without going to the hospital. So
Oh, praise God.
we're getting better at taking care of ourselves and knowing what to do, and basically knowing our triggers. I know what my trigger. I know stress is my trigger. You know,
Right.
I'm stressed out. I need to sit down somewhere. Um,
Hmm.
one of my friends, hers is cold weather as well. Mine's a little bit cold, but North Carolina it ain't cold like that. But you kind of know what your triggers are and know when, okay, I'm about to have a crisis. Let me go ahead and sit down and
Hmm.
get myself together. So I think that us knowing and being able to uh prevent crisis and prevent infections and all the other stuff, we kind of are getting better at that. I saw that they just had another medicine that they had on TV, that they were trying out. I think they're trying. I just don't feel like we're a priority because it's more of a minority disease.
So
I would.
when new, I'm sorry.
No, you're
So
fine.
when new medications come out, do you wait a little while before you actually try them?
That's a good
Yes.
question.
Or have you been in situations where you just go ahead and try it and
Mm-mm.
be
I wait.
part of their statistics or
Like a
whatever?
test
I
dummy.
wait. I wait because a lot of times they're just throwing them out there and
Mhm.
like hoping they stick. And I'm just like, that's kind of not, what I would like. When I look at the statistics and looking at, okay, well, let's see what this has to go. It's just like a lot of it doesn't have enough information for me to
Mhm.
just take them. But at the same time, because I'm already not having as many as I was in the past, I don't want to mess up mess up my routine now. My routine now is good, and I'm going to try to keep it like that. If I start having more crises, then I would look into, because at one time they were pushing hydroxyurea really hard. That was one of the
Hmm.
medicines that they had first found for sickle cell, and it was making us sicker. It was making us so, I mean, the side effects were not even worth it, and they ended up taking me off because it wasn't worth it. Um so it's just one of those things. I'm like, and any medicine, whether it's sickle cell or not, I always wait a little bit, a
I
while
don't blame
before
you.
just, yeah, before taking anything. Even with the COVID vaccines, I waited a little bit before I took the COVID vaccine.
We
But
I did too.
I mean, it's just, not to say that thought I was gonna turn into a zombie or anything. I kind of want to see, especially with me having sickle cell, I didn't want to take the vaccine and then me go into crisis.
We want to
Like,
gather our own data first to see
right,
what the side effects are going to be for people.
yeah.
Right.
Well, we're gonna take our first break, and while we're doing, we're gonna give our guests some time to get them a drink of water, something like that, and then take a little nibble. And we're gonna come right back, and we're gonna continue the discussion with sickle cell anemia. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back.
All right.
Are we muted?
All right. Welcome back to the show. We do it for the culture radio where our stories matter. And we got some great guests that's helping us out with this topic about sickle cell. Miss Erica, how you spell say the last name?
Lazada.
Lazada.
Yes.
Yeah, you know Spanish. I'm just playing. And we got Miss Tiffany Sykes. We appreciate you guys for joining us. If you guys are just tuning in, we've been talking about sickle cell, some of the things that expect to see when someone has sickle cell. Miss Erica's been giving us a great information of some of the great things to look out for, some of the things to expect if you're going through it, some things that you can do. And we're going to continue the discussion. I know Miss Mahogany Rose had something that she wanted to.
Just have a couple of questions.
Okay.
As far as your parents being carriers, did they ever experience any type of fatigue or any issues just being carriers?
They didn't tell me if they did or not. I think my mom does, but both of my kids have the trait. So if someone has sickle cell, their kids are going to have the trait because, well, there's nothing else for me to give except one of the traits. So both of my kids have the trait and they do experience fatigue. They do get tired, not like me, but they still will get tired and they still have to, even if you have the trait, you still have to stay hydrated. You still have to um be cautious of being out in the sun doing really hard extraneous activities. You
Mhm.
still have to stay really really hydrated. There have been cases where um people who had sickle cell trait were out there. It was a football player. He was out there and he was trying to tell the coach, like, look, something's wrong. I need to. They just worked and worked and worked him. He ended up passing away because they didn't realize just because he had the trait that he didn't have to. They thought that he didn't have to sit down and rest. You still have to rest. You still will have pain. It won't be extreme pain, but you still will have some pain, and you still will get fatigued.
Gotcha,
I don't know
gotcha.
how young your children are, but are they affected by flights?
No, my son is 11 and my daughter's 18.
Okay.
They don't really have too many aches and pains when they're flying, not too much. When we went to Hawaii, they did. That was a long flight. I think everybody was hurt in that flight. It was a really long flight and that was actually a trigger for me because um I've had pulmonary embolisms because our blood is already sticky. We already
Mhm.
have, sticky blood. And so we have clots. We get blood clots a lot faster than the regular person. So when I took that long flight, it triggered a crisis in me. I ended up getting sick and I had to take it easy for a little bit. Um, they were aching as well. Like I said, it was a long flight. I don't know if it was just them because we were sitting for so long or if it was their sickle cell, but they do have things that triggered them as well.
Blood thinners, are they ever prescribed for sickle cell anemia patients?
No, not for sickle cell, but for other things. So I was on blood thinners, but that's because I've had two PEs, which is a pulmonary embolism. I had a blood clot in my lung, so they had me on blood thinners because of the blood clots. When I was pregnant with my last son, um, I was getting blood clots, so they had me on blood thinners because of that. But it wasn't because of the sickle cell.
Well, if I can just interject here for 1 second. Now, I was looking at some of the risk factors for people with with sickle cell anemia, and it didn't mention the pulmonary hypertension can definitely be one of the complications. It says that people with sickle cell anemia can develop high blood pressure in their lungs. The complication usually affects adults, shortness of breath and fatigue are common. And it did mention also about the what was it, the acute like chest syndrome. Like do any of these complications ever mess with you? Like it says stroke, acute chest syndrome, pulmonary hypertension, organ damage, splenic blindness, leg ulcers, gallstones. Any of those things have they ever affected you before?
I've had acute chest syndrome, which was very painful. It's basically my chest, like extreme pain in my chest. I had that. I was in the hospital for a long time when I had that. I've never had. Um, the pulmonary hypertension or leg ulcers, um, but I've had a splenic infarction, which is basically pieces of my um, spleen.
Yeah, I see that on
Yeah,
here.
yeah, dying and stuff and
Hmm.
different stuff like that. So I've had a couple of things. I've had a couple of near death experiences.
Wow.
But thank God that, I'm still here. But yeah, it can get really serious. And I know that I speak a lot like, oh, we're getting better, but it is serious. It is serious to the point where, you know, certain things are life and death. As Tiffany was saying, her brother passed away. Like these aren't just pain. Yes, it's painful, and yes, we get to the point where the pain is so much, like, you can't even begin to explain how bad the pain is. But at the same time, it's not just pain. It's not just us hurting. It's also different complications that we have to be weary of. Um, it's not just, oh, okay, well, we'll just give her pain medicine. No, we also need you, and that's the what's the word? That is what we're trying to, a lot of us are fighting for, is for the doctors to actually find out what's going on with us, not just give us some pain medicine and tell us to be quiet. That is our that's what we're fighting for. It's really hard because a lot of doctors start to feel, and I know I'm going off topic of what you're asking,
Well, you're
but
fine. You're fine.
oh, there's a lot of we have hard times, especially with certain doctors when we go to the hospital. They're just, oh, she's fine. Just give her some. If they even give us a pain medicine, but a lot of times they'll just, oh, she'll be fine. You'll be fine. They'll try to give us some oral medicine and send us home and act like we're drug seekers, and we're not drug seekers. There's the last thing we want to do is go to the hospital. The last thing we really want to do is go to the hospital for everybody to look at us and look at us like we're drug addicts, or like we're fakers, or that we need pity. So we don't want to go to the hospital. That is not fun for us. It's more exhausting going to the hospital than it would be just sitting at home. But sometimes it gets to the point where we have to go to the hospital because we don't know, if when my chest is hurting, I have to go to the hospital because I don't know if I'm having acute chest syndrome or a blood clot or pneumonia, or those things I can't figure out at home, so I have to go.
Well, I have a question inside of a question.
Okay.
Okay. Now you mentioned before that you had like a pulmonary embolism, right?
Hmm.
And I'm seeing here that it is one of the complications that comes along with sickle cell. It says that it's a clot lodging in a deep vein, whatever, and it can affect your lungs and stuff like that. But my thing is, with that being said, did you find or did we know that there were a lot of people that passed from COVID-19 because of sickle cell? Was the fatality a lot of fatalities because of people with sickle cell? I mean, how did that work? I mean, because I know it had to be when you consider that they get a lot of infections and stuff like that.
I honestly don't know anyone, not to say it hasn't. I haven't heard about a lot of them, and I don't know a lot of them that had that got COVID. Most of my sickle cell, because we have a community on Facebook, and there's a lot of us that were, when it first started coming, we didn't even like really leave the house. We were too scared to leave the house. And when we did, we were sanitizing from the elbows down and everything, wearing masks. And so I don't, to be honest, I don't know of a lot of people who passed away with COVID from sickle cell. Now, a couple of us got it, like me. I got it, and I was inside ICU, and I thought I was gonna, actually thought I was gonna die at that moment, because it was so bad. Um, but we just haven't. I haven't heard of a whole bunch of them. There's a couple, but it wasn't as many as I thought, to be honest. And like I said, there might be a lot more that weren't that's not on the in the group that we're in on Facebook. But from the group on Facebook, I haven't we haven't had a whole bunch of fatalities because of COVID and sickle cell at the same time.
Within your group, do you all find that you can share things that work,
Yes,
different foods or superfoods and things like that?
yes.
That's pretty
It's
awesome.
it's and it's helpful because It's there's nowhere else you can get these like, it's hard to just be talking to I can't talk to my best friend or my homegirl about certain things because they don't have it, or I can't ask the doctor because all they're going to tell me is, hey, just try this medicine, so things that different people have tried, I'll try, or things that I've tried, oh, this worked for me, you know it is it helps, it really does, it helps having a community, and so for those that have sickle cell as well, find a community. Look, find me on Facebook. My Facebook is Erica Lazada. I will add you to groups, like you can talk to me, talk to some of the other girls, like we don't know, you're not going to know until you go through it and try it and see if it works for you. um but as I tell everybody, make sure you talk it over with your doctor first. But I'm not a doctor, but certain things work. CMOS, something like that. They work for me.
If all they're doing is prescribing medication, and you ladies might be talking about stuff that is natural, I think I will go with the natural stuff.
And and that's me. I rather do natural instead of a whole bunch of medicine. That's most of the medicines they prescribe end up having way more side effects that I don't want to deal with over what is actually helping me. So
Now, as far as your children, because I know you said that they both carry the trait,
mhm.
when you unleash them to society and they began to date, how would you want them to address, you know, their their status as far as being sick, having the trait?
Well, I talked to my daughter. She's 18 now. My son got a little bit of time, but I talked to my daughter already, and I kind of explained to her, like, when you are ready to have kids, make sure that the person that you are with doesn't have the trait, and if they do, you're gonna have to kind of have some type of counseling so your chances of your child having the disease as well. Now, in her head, she don't think she's ever going to have kids, but I said that too at 18. So, but I explained to her, what the risk is, so she understands it. And when my son gets a little older, of course, we'll have that conversation as well. But my 18-year-old, she definitely knows. Okay, this is what they need to get tested. They didn't make sure to find out whether or not they have the trait or not before, and even like my thing is once she gets to a point and where they're like serious, whether or not she thinks she's going to have a kid or not, like
Mhm.
when they get serious, she needs to know whether or not he has a trait.
Yeah.
Well, my thing is like you telling me that you could actually go to a doctor. I can go to a doctor right now and find out if I have the trait.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You can have them do a blood test.
Oh, okay, okay, cool, cool. Now I got a question for both you and Tiff. I know her brother had passed away from the effects of sickle cell. I'm also an insurance agent, and in my over 20 something years of selling life insurance, I've never had a client to tell me that they had sickle cell, and so I'm not sure what it would be like to try to give them life insurance. Have you ever gone through a lot of obstacles trying to get life insurance, or is it hard for you to get it, or do they deny you, or do you got what's that like?
It is almost impossible to get life insurance
Wow.
right now. So I have a policy. I've had this policy from I think my mom got me this policy probably, oh my gosh, it had to be when I was like 19 or 20. It's a really old policy that she had got, and we just been keeping that policy because it's really hard for me to get a new policy because now not only do I have sickle cell, but now I'm
Older,
40.
right?
Right. So I just have to hold on to that policy, but I can't even get like a $200,000 policy on myself without paying like $500 a month or something. Like it's really hard for sickle cell people to get
It is. It's very much. We had to come out of pocket to bury my brother. We had so many insurance agency had denied because he was a high risk,
Wow.
and it's not easy to have coverage. Folks with sickle cell.
And how was he? How old was he again, Tiff, when he
He
passed?
passed at the tender age of 30.
Yeah, so at that age, it was like, you can't be under your parents. If your parents work, you can't be on their insurance after a
No,
certain age. So now you got to get it on your own, or something like that. So yeah, it wasn't like he could have been covered under your parents.
we knew that he wasn't getting better with his health, so we kind of prepared for it. Tucking money away, and each year that he was growing older, he was getting weak and fragile. He just, it's sad to see someone going through that illness.
Uh,
I wouldn't wish that on anyone.
well, you
You
guys,
know, I, we had front row seat of this, and he just went through a lot with this illness, and there's nothing nobody could do.
well, I don't know if Mahogany Rose have any questions because I got one last question. You have any more?
I do have a question.
Okay.
When you were bearing children, when you were carrying your children, did you have complications?
With my daughter, I did not. My daughter, I literally went into labor. I think the day before I was working, the next day I had the baby and I was ready to go back to work 30 days later.
I know that's
um
right.
but I was also 23 at that time. So I was a lot younger. And with my son, it was really bad. I was in ICU. I had another PE. So thank God I was in the hospital because I had the pulmonary embolism. Um, so I was already in the hospital, but when he started, basically he was in distress and they had to do an emergency C-section and he wasn't breathing. So they end up having to, because he tied his umbilical cord in a knot. So thank God I was already in the hospital when that happened and they had to, take him out. But then because of my sickle cell, it started to get more complicated and they were trying to, make sure I was okay. So it was a hard pregnancy with him, or hard, well, it was hard pregnancy and hard delivery with him. But you know, things happen. But like I said, with my daughter, I was I was up and at him.
Wow.
Um, Now for all those that are listening in, now I assume that we already know. I'm not even gonna assume, but we know that there is no cure for sickle cell. Correct?
Nope, there
Okay.
is.
There is. Okay. Well, enlighten us then.
So there is there is, I think, two people right now that they cured of sickle cell. The issue with the cure is that you have to have it's like they're taking stem cells from your
Mm.
brother or sister, but they have to have the same parents. They have to have the same um they have to have the same parent, the same something else. Basically, most of 85% of the people that have sickle cell don't qualify for it. But she was cured. They did a bone marrow transplant from her sister, I believe. But they had the same parents and the same, they're closer in age and they were able to get that done. So they do have that cure, but it's not a readily available cure.
Okay.
So for those that don't know about the cure, what are some treatments that you would recommend for people with sickle cell? What are some of that would maybe relieve the pain or help prevent the complications? What are some of the different treatments that you would recommend to people from your group?
Um, CMOS. I know there was a whole little crave. Everybody crazy. Everybody was, but CMOS works. I exercise. I don't, go strenuously even doing like running 5 miles or anything, but I move every day. Moving every day keeps your blood flowing. Um, I hydrate. I drink a gallon of water a day. As you see, I'm sitting here with my cup. I drink a gallon of water a day. Now, yes, I'm going to pee all day, but it keeps me hydrated. Um, I I I started reading a book called Eating for Your Blood Type. And I kind of go by that. So because I'm a O positive, I kind of try to stay with meats that are going to be healthier for me. I don't eat pork. Um and it's crazy since I stopped eating pork, and I'm not against pig. I love some bacon. But ever since I've stopped eating pork, probably like 7 years, no, it's been like 10 years ago. I've had less crisis. So your diet has a lot to do with your health. The healthier you are, the easier your body's going to be able to fight off whatever's going on with you. Rest. Stop stressing. Like I said, stress is my number one trigger. Don't stress about anything. I know that's easier said than done. And, you know, at my job, I'm going to stress. But as soon as I start to feel myself stress, I try to relax. Yoga is good. A lot of the girls in the group were saying yoga, and I start trying it. Yoga is good. Even when you're in pain, instead of just always, oh, let me hurry up and take a pain pill, I'll try to rest. I'll try to like do some yoga. I will try to sit there and relax, breathe, and basically put myself somewhere else and see if I can get myself out of it. Now, if it starts to get to a little, starts to get higher, I go ahead and take some pain medicine. But I try not to take it all the time just because it makes me so out of it. And I don't want myself just to always have to go to it. So those are pretty much the things that I just try to, stay on. I don't drink a lot. Now I ain't gonna say ever, but I try not to drink a lot.
You can be honest. You can tell us you a lush.
I no, I used to be a lush though. I'm not saying. But I try not to drink a lot because the more alcohol you drink, the more dehydrated we're going to get. So our body is going to be trying to fight to replenish that water, and we're already dehydrated because of our sickle cell. Like, you know what I'm saying? We don't need that extra. Some of the girls, they take a little bit of the green for their pain. I don't. But they say it works for them, and I'm not pushing any drugs on anybody. I'm just saying that's what they do.
And
Um,
what about an alkaline diet? I heard that it cures, it removes cancer cells and all that. So what about an alkaline diet?
um, I believe so. I feel like that is more. I feel like that works. There's so many people that follow Dr. Sebi or Sebi
Uh huh.
in there. I don't follow him, like, well, follow his whole diet, but they've been having really good success with that. They're not getting as sick as well. So I believe that works. And I know that he said that he had cured sickle cell too. So I would say try it. I'm always for the natural instead of trying to always take the medicines that, not to say that doctors don't know, but I feel like they don't really care.
I feel the same way, Erica.
Well, we definitely have to give it up for you for coming in and basically informing our guests on what to expect and what they can do with sickle cell. We want to give Tiffany a shout out too because she was a nervous wreck. She came on and she joined us and she put her in her little insight and you go girl. She was so scared and nervous. I don't want to do. I don't know if I can do it. You go girl.
But we thank both of you ladies for
Thank
sharing.
you.
And Erica, you
Thank
definitely
you for
inspire
having me.
other people, I'm sure, what you do and what you
We thank you
share.
guys very much.
Thank
But
you for
what,
having me on.
one last question, what can we do to raise awareness of sickle cell anemia in our community? What can we do?
Talk to us, advocate.
'Cause we're getting closer to the colder. We're getting closer to the colder months, and what can we do to raise
Blood
awareness?
drives. Would you say something like that?
Yeah.
Maybe? Okay, bad.
I, you know, I think social media would be a good platform, or would be a good, like, you're actually raising awareness now. This podcast now is actually doing stuff. Like, it's people are listening. Oh, okay. And they're gonna look up stuff. They're gonna start looking, oh, let me see about this information. Let me see what they're talking about. So you're actually doing it now. But just talking to people, when people tell you, oh, that they have it, ask questions. Um, Whenever we have like a lot of times in September, we have the little raising awareness, and we'll start posting stuff. Share those things. Start following some of the sickle cell pages and share it, because are in a social media world right now. And once the people see it, whether they knew about it or not, they're going to look it up. They might not like it, they might not love it, they might not put a comment, but I guarantee they're probably going to look it up. Like, what if they never heard of it? They're going to look it up and like, I wonder what this is. or sharing stories that you heard. um those are pretty much only things that I can actually think of now off the top of my head. um yeah.
One thing you didn't mention, Erica, is that you received the key to the city as a child.
I did.
Don't
I
be
have.
trying to, don't be trying to give us no humble pie.
Look, I wanted you to say, I know you put that in your bio, but I wanted you to actually tell us.
Yes, I have the key to the city. Yeah. And it's funny because I had the key to the city, and for some reason when I was a kid, I thought that that key opened up every door in favor. So then, but it's funny because then I got a new one because the old one, so my father has Alzheimer's, and I had gave him my, of course he had it when I was younger. Well, he kind of misplaced it, and so I talked to the mayor. He got it back for me, or gave me another one with all the trimmings and stuff. And so I had put it on the wall, and my kids are like, you can open up every. I was like, that's what I thought. So they thought the same thing. They was like, you can open up. They already know I'm a realtor on top of that. So they're like, you can open up any door. And I'm like, no, that's not what that is. But yep, I have the key to the city.
That
That's
is
awesome.
so awesome.
I
Well,
love Fayetteville.
before
It's
we go, we
my
want to give you an opportunity to plug your business as a real estate agent. So go ahead and give people your information so if they need to look you up, where they can find you at.
Okay, so my name is Erica Huey. Online, I am Erica Lozada, my married name on Facebook. My company is the Superior Group Aspire. I help people buy houses. I can help you do a 2 or 3K loan, which is basically a rehab loan. Help you buy a house, fix it. My husband's a contractor, so we kind of do the tag team.
We're gonna get you on a
Um,
TV show. Go ahead.
right. You could give me a call. My number is 910-261-1839. If you're interested in buying a home, you can find me on IG, which is Erica Huey, Hughey. And my website is the superiorgroupaspire.com.
Awesome, awesome. Well, you've been amazing. You've
Absolutely
been informative.
amazing.
You go, girl. We thank you. We were blessed to have you on the show because someone who has sickle cell can probably look at this show. They may have a family member, something like that, that's going through it, so they can have a better understanding, an idea of what they can do to maybe help the situation. So we thank you for
We
joining
thank you
us
so much,
today on
Erica.
the We Do It for the Culture Radio. You've been awesome, and we want to give you a shout out to your business and let everybody know if you're looking for a home, go holla at her.
Yes.
Erica Huey, right here. We appreciate you. Give it up for
Thank
Erica.
you.
Well, you enjoy the rest of your evening, ma'am, and thank you again. And next time we might have you in again when we talk about real estate again. You heard?
I hear you. That's awesome. I will be honored.
Awesome, awesome. But you enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank
Thank
you so
you. Bye.
much.
Peace. Bye bye.